Hi there! I'm Jen, this is Remembered Reads, and this was originally going to be the introduction to the vlog that I made at the Toronto Public Library's annual sale last Thursday, but I ultimately didn't end up going into the sale, so it's going to be a bit of a discussion, and it's going to be a view of the massive lines of people queuing up to get into this sale, because I went down with the idea that I would check out what the sale was like. A lot of the libraries have individual sale tables, and two of the bigger branches have actual shops in the library branch itself. But this is a big event that the Friends of the Toronto Public Library have. And since I used to volunteer with the Friends of the Houston Public Library, I wanted to see how this would compare. The sale ran from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and I got there probably around 9:45. I carpooled with somebody to get downtown and then walked the 2 kilometers north to the Toronto Reference Library, which is where the sale was being held. And I couldn't believe the lines. It was wrapped all the way around the building. There were lines inside, through security, through the main floor, wrapping around the second floor, and I did take video of that, so I'm going to insert some of the footage of that there. But ultimately I decided I wasn't going to join that line. At one point somebody who had been queuing up already for at least an hour, based on what I was hearing, was talking to one of the volunteers who told him that it would probably be another 2 hours once he'd gotten past security to actually get into the sale room. So I did give up, because even though the sale prices were between 10 cents and $1, and that's $1 Canadian, so think about how cheap that is for those of you who are in countries with stronger currencies. But I decided that it wasn't worth going in there, because for me at least, if I just want the information out of a book, I can take it out of the library. I don't need to own a copy of it and have it taking up space. And on the flip side, if I decide that a book is something that I do want to own, I probably want to have a nicer copy of it. So I felt like I probably wouldn't be doing myself any favors, because if I went into the sale, I would probably see things that I was interested in and end up buying them because they were so cheap. But I feel like I would rather take them out of the library. So ultimately, I decided not to spend 3 hours trying to get into this. And I thought it was funny because I've seen a few people doing the, I think, quarterly discussion that happens on BookTube when people discuss consumerism in books, which I think assumes that a lot of people are paying money for books, which I often think is not true, because I know a lot of the bigger channels are getting promotional copies. I know there are a number of people who are either booksellers or work in publishing and have promotional copies because that's part of their job, so they're not paying for those new copies. And in the corners of BookTube that I follow the most, I see a lot of people doing library hauls. So I think the discussions of consumerism are a little overblown. At the same time, I think it's kind of silly when people insist that there's nothing to a book as an item, that a book is just the ideas contained within it. In part because, you know, if a centipede ran by, I could kill it with this. This is an item. I can't kill it with the ideas. I can kill it with this physical book. And also because, and as I've said this before in other videos, the typeface and the layout and all of that is an artistry in and of itself. And that's without getting into the issues of illustrated books that are art pieces. So it's not a discussion that I'm going to have, because I kind of think that presenting it as completely one side or the other is kind of missing a lot of nuance. And nobody wants nuance, because this is the internet. We just like to shout at each other. But it was something that went through my head as I was deciding whether I wanted to spend 2 hours trying to get into this sale, which I ultimately decided that I didn't. So if you've been to any library sales lately, I'd love to know how long you had to wait to get inside it, or if you had to wait to get inside it. I'd be curious to hear what your experiences are. Anyway, that's it for now. Ciao.